Learning how to play faster on piano is something that as a teacher I'm asked about quite a lot. Lots of beginners want to know how to do it and will quite often anyway just play things above their current speed limit. The problem is though that if you try and run before you can walk, you trip up. When you hear people playing faster than they can handle, it ends up just sounding a bit sloppy and uncontrolled and you lose the musicality of it. In this video I want to give you an overview of how players build up speed and some practical tips that you can implement to increase the speed at which you can play whilst staying accurate and in control. This channel is your guide through developing all the different skills and knowledge you need to become a better piano player and musician. So if that's something you want to do, consider clicking the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything you need to learn. If you end up getting something useful out of this video, could you please give it a like and let me know in the comments, because those things really help channels start to grow. And it's good to get some feedback too to know what people want to see more of. I'm probably going to do some separate videos on some of these topics so I can dive a bit deeper in. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see more of, and also what kind of things do you struggle to get faster at playing. And one more thing before we get into it, don't worry what your definition of fast is at the moment. It's going to be different for everyone and for different things that you're playing. So this is something that most musicians will tell you to do because it's so important. You might have already heard of it or just realised yourself because it's a fairly simple concept, but in practice, a lot of beginners don't actually apply it enough. And I want to really dive into the details of what you need to be thinking about to get the most out of it. Starting slow, focusing on accuracy and forming good habits and good muscle memory is absolutely paramount to creating a solid foundation from which to build. You need to make sure that whatever it is you're working on, you know it inside out. Beginners have to realize that before you can work on improving anything about the way you play something, including making it faster, then you have to get the absolute basics and mechanics solid first. You can't be stuttering over what notes you need to play, so make sure you put in the groundwork there first. And whilst you're doing that, there's a few things that you really need to focus on. Make sure that you have the most efficient fingering. Sometimes at slow speeds you could get away with doing it one way, but it may not allow you to play it well at higher speeds. I have a video up on choosing fingers to make things as simple as possible that you can check out after this. Thinking in simple blocks of fingers is what we need to be doing. This will allow you to speed things up loads down the road, as you can reduce a large number of notes into a small number of blocks, which is much easier to process mentally. So for example, with the C major scale, if I was to play 2 octaves, that's 15 notes, but I can reduce that to a few repeated blocks. So these blocks are like stepping stones, and you can use the first note of a block as like a marker. So that would be the C, and then the F, and then the C, and then the F again. Another example, if I was to play part of the bridge from All Night Long. Blocks there I'm working with, I've got this block of notes, then this block, then this block, and then this one. Then I build up the muscle memory of the pattern that I create whilst I'm in that block. And that's so important for stopping yourself getting lost as you get to higher speeds. Also, check your hand positioning isn't physically blocking you and causing unnecessary awkward movement which will slow you down. So coming back to that example again, if I was to hold my hand too far back here, my thumb can't reach that D flat properly, and I'm going to have to make an awkward twist to get it, which at high speeds is going to cause a big stutter in my playing and make it uneven. Whereas if I just hold my hand forward, I can reach it easily and it allows me to sail through. So those tiny little differences in hand position make a big difference. Or maybe coming down the F harmonic minor scale. One of my students the other day was playing this and holding this finger too far away from the D flat, causing a twist and a stutter. Whereas if you just bring it forward, you can keep your wrist straight and do it comfortably in one hand block. Make sure that you're completely rhythmically accurate and you can feel the control and confidence with every note at slow speeds. That's an absolute must that will be your undoing if you try and rush ahead before you're ready. Whilst we're slow, we can use that time to really think about the individual notes and how they sound, all the little details and the nuance in what you're playing, the articulation, the note length. It allows you to really hear the music in much more clarity, so you have a stronger sense of everything that's happening in your mind. Listening is so important for improving many aspects of your playing. You can focus on how you're going to shape a melody and the dynamics at slow speed with precision that you wouldn't be able to if you're not used to playing fast yet. So everything must be built strong slowly first. This is a technical game for controlling your movement and everything, a mental game for processing everything quick enough, and you're also training your ears to hear faster too. This is a classic method that most musicians use, and it's popular for a very, very good reason. After you've got everything solid whilst it's slow, this is the most important thing that you want to be doing to start gaining speed. Speed is nothing if you haven't got good control and timing, so not only will the metronome help you with that, but it's a way you can effectively and incrementally build up speed whilst keeping track of your progress. If you haven't used a metronome before, it's just a device that gives you evenly spaced clicks at a tempo that you can set so you can play along and keep in time. It'll take a little practice for beginners to get used to because you have to listen to something else and lock into it whilst playing yourself. But once you do, you can use it to fix any rhythmic unevenness and build up your speed. Once you've got something solid and comfortable at your starting tempo, then you can just slowly raise it by a couple of BPM at a time without feeling a massive increase in difficulty. Sometimes you can raise it a bit more than that, but the real trick is to not do too big of an increase at any one time, and don't keep increasing until you've got that new level completely comfortable. You may get something up to speed within a practice session, or it may take days or weeks to do it slowly bit by bit. It really depends on how fast the thing is that you're trying to play and your level of experience. Sometimes it's useful to jump back down to a lower tempo to warm up, and sometimes it can be useful to jump back down and then go to somewhere medium and then back up to your maximum tempo just to gain a sense of that clarity and control in the thing that you're playing. You can use them for pieces or songs or sections of things that you're playing, but they're also really great for exercises. I think learning actual music should be the majority of what you use to improve, but you can support that with exercises. Exercises, if you use them right, can be a great way to gain experience of different kinds of shapes and patterns and movements you'll encounter at the piano, as well as give yourself a strong grounding in technique, fingering, development of control and coordination, all of which you need if you want to play faster. They help you train up your weaker fingers too, and give you a chance to laser focus on specific aspects of things that you're working on. Great exercises to use are the staples like scales, broken chords, arpeggios, but then there's things like the HANON exercises, which a lot of people use. Now you should know that there's kind of two different camps with the HANON exercises. Some players and teachers absolutely swear by them, and others think they're a bit mechanical and robotic and can even cause harm if you don't do them right. I completely see both sides of the argument, but the way I see it, there's a happy medium. First, there's a way to practice them that won't cause any harm. That usually comes from over practicing them or old-fashioned ideas of finger technique. And sure, they might be a bit robotic, but they give you the control that you need to make other things musical. A certain amount of craft does have to go into art, in this case to make it sound good. An example of one of the exercises is this pattern. So you can see just from watching me do that for a second how these things are really working all your fingers and your finger coordination and your mental ability to follow the patterns correctly. So training these will allow you to build speed and accuracy. What you want to do with these is build them up exactly like we did in the previous section with the metronome, focusing on evenness and control in both hands, slowly building up speed and only increasing the tempo when you're not straining to play it. Everything needs to feel kind of loose and relaxed. I'll put links in the description to the HANON book and some for scales and arpeggios if you want to take a look. I will hopefully get around to doing full videos on those, so let me know in the comments if that's something that you want to see. A lot of the time it can be useful to start using a lighter touch the faster you get. Keeping loose and relaxed will allow you the mobility you need to reach those higher speeds, because beginners will often let their weight dig into the keyboard or tense their fingers and push too hard. So make sure your arm and body are fully supporting the weight of your hand and holding it up above the keys properly so that you're free to move around and float over the keyboard. If you can do this, moving your hand, floating over the keys, touching them without actually pushing them down, then you're controlling your weight and the height of your wrist really well. Try and keep that feeling, that control in your arm when you're playing. You just drop down a little bit further to push the notes down when you're playing. Staying light will let the notes come up again cleanly after you've pushed them down. Check you haven't got any tension when you're playing slowly first. You should be able to move your wrist around freely whilst holding a note. So just play a note, try this on different fingers in both hands. Check your posture and everything in your hand position are on point first, and that you're playing with the right part of your fingertip so that you can do this when you play a note. Make sure that your wrist joint is really kind of supple and loose so that you can move around slowly, keeping everything relaxed. You've just got this bit of grip on the note. You can try shaking a little bit as well, just to keep everything nice and loose. Remember, do it gently. You're trying to let all your other fingers hang down, feeling nice and relaxed. So whenever you're making some kind of movement on the piano, you need to make use of your arm and body, especially at higher speed. So for example, with a scale, when you're doing a turn, you need less thumb tucking and definitely no twisting. So you don't want to be getting to this note, tucking your thumb really far under and twisting around like that. you need to make sure that your arm's kind of like a crane controlled by your shoulder and your body, and it's moving your hand into position so it can kind of move with the direction that you're playing. So with a scale, you'd be moving across like this. So you need a tiny bit of a thumb tuck, and then that way, if your arm's taking the burden, your hand is free to dangle down and relax, and your fingers can just kind of fall into place. That's going to allow you to sail through something at higher speeds much more easily. Letting your fingers just fall into place in those blocks that you've rehearsed slowly. Stitching things together bit by bit and isolating specific parts is a great way to start speeding things up and really get things flowing. It gives you far more manageable chunks to process technically and mentally, and helps you build up stamina too. Here's what I mean. So a common beginner piece to learn is Für Elise, or at least the A and B sections anyway. So if we just ignore this bit for a moment, and we're going to come straight in for this example on this bit. So we'd start off trying to stitch that bit with the left hand, slowly. And then gradually speeding it up until you can really just kind of ripple through those two positions. So we've got this one block here, and then we've got this one block here. Remember, think in chunks at a time. Then you'd stitch on this next right hand part. Remember, think of this bit as a block, this one shape here. And you could even forget that beginning bit to start with and just ripple from left to right from here. Slowly first. And then build it up until you can just ripple through. So in my head, I'm just thinking about that block and that block. Two things, and I'm just rippling. Then you'd practice being able to connect it to the next left-hand part and then the next right-hand part after that. So then you could isolate this bit here if you like. Gradually getting it a bit faster, until you can just sail through. Then practice larger chunks at a time, like the whole section really slow, and gradually build that speed up till you can get it all nice and fluid. Always stick to the same fingers so you build up the right muscle memory. Make sure your posture and everything's good. Your hand's in a good position to reach everything comfortably. You're making good mental use of dividing it up into those groupings, those blocks. And don't speed up until it feels solid at a given speed. I hope the video was helpful. Please leave a like and let me know in the comments if it was, as that really helps the channel. I have a video up here you should watch next with loads of other tips for beginners. I've also recently started an Instagram account where I'm going to be posting quick tips and things like that. So it'd be really great if you could follow me over there. There's a link in the description for that. And subscribe for more content to help you develop your piano playing. Thanks for watching.